Hello everyone, I am that 3D guy and today we are going to take a look at some of the very basic stuff in 3D. We are going to take at Autodesk Alias. Even though it's one of the most difficult softwares, we are going to take it very easy. We are going to take it very slow from the basic. Even if you are very new at 3D, you don't know how the things work, we're going to take a look at how things work in Alias, right? You might be thinking why I've chosen this software. So the main reason why I've chosen this software is because it is being used in the automotive industry quite intensively right now. It's being used quite heavily in the industry. It's not only being used for production quality surfaces, but it is also being used for sketch modeling, for quick modeling, something which is like not which the designers are not sure of yet. So they want to make quick designs or maybe make quick 3D stuff, and that's the best thing which you can work around. So I'll start off even with showing you how the whole workspace is, how everything works around an alias, and how the curves are. So the major thing is like just learning the major tools of alias is going to be pretty handy for you to even run other softwares. If you are more interested in learning other softwares, you can just take a look at this software and maybe take a look at the workspace of it. And then maybe if you are interested, you can just get a student license and start working on your own. So here I'm gonna start with a file, and since sometimes people are quite confused like which workspace to select, since there are three workspaces here. There's default workspace, there's modeling surface, and then there's paint surface. So there's not a lot of difference in it. We'll go with the default one because that's where modeling and paint is there as well. So default is the workspace where modeling and paint is included in as well. So in modeling, there's class A surfacing, which is written. It's like production quality surfaces, but you can also create sketch models in it. And paint is for like quick sketch patch layouts, which you want to like maybe test some patch layout. You want to translate some designs into 3D. So this is the initial workflow we are going to use default because it has everything included inside it. So yeah. So we see a black screen over here. So yours might be grayish because you just have started alias and it's not very difficult to change the colors, and maybe it's quite appealing for me to use black since it's quite contrasting with the object I'm working on. Since the surfaces are quite white in alias, so I try to keep the background black. But it's up to your preference. You can keep it as you want. And first we'll first place a cube, because I think the cube is like the major thing which helps you to understand what the surface what the object or what the software actually is. So we'll keep three cubes over here. Yes, with a set of two and maybe one with a set of three. Yeah, so we have we have around four groups of cubes over here, one with the 1 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, right? So we'll first take a look at the workflow and also discuss how the objects are in the software and how you can control all these surfaces, which will be a bit more advanced. We'll do those in the next video, but we'll first take a look at the workflow. So I'll make sure to explain you all the things on the upper tab as well. So the first one is the file. So obviously it's similar to all the other softwares. It's like open, new, open recent, open stage set, and save as, export. And then there's import or maybe send it to Maya. These are some selected options which come handy. So it's not a big deal since it's like similar to any other software. Then there's edit. So edit, you can it's like a similar thing which is like editing something. Maybe you need control C control V to copy and paste. Then there's undo, redo, or maybe you need to cut an image, you need to paste an image. So it's all these things. It's like these are the shortcut keys we have for each and every command, right? For control C control V, we know all those commands, and it's there in the edit tab. Then there's delete. So in alias there are different types of surfaces, there are different types of locators, then there are different types of objects, and for them deleting them differently is required. Like maybe there's a history in of something, there's a history of an object, right? So you need to delete only the history and not the object itself. So there's delete construction history, then there are delete locators, there are delete guidelines, models, paintings, and delete image planes and stuff like that. So it doesn't get very difficult once you know what actually works for what are locators, what are construction history. We'll discuss all those things also as we progress in the modeling sessions. Then there's layouts, like if you want to go front, back, right. We don't usually use these much because we stay in the perspective and try to keep it. If you want to go in the left, you can see a small cube over here. It helps you to move around pretty quickly. So you want a precise orthographic view. So it's gonna be over here. If I click on the object, you just see how it rotates around, or how the camera rotates around an object. So this is how it works. Then there's object display, where you can show how the object is being displayed. So all the groups in Alias are objects. They are termed as objects. Surfaces are single surfaces. Objects are set of surfaces which are grouped together. So if I select a surface over here, it's like a surface on the cube. But a cube is comprising of 6 surfaces, and if I group them together, it's going to be a group of 6 surfaces together. So this is a group, right? And if I want to change anything in this group, I'll go to the object display, right? Because a group is an object and a surface is a surface. So that's how it works in Alias. Then there's Windows display. So different types of, like, how you want to set up this transparency, hardware shade, and hidden lines, and other things like anti-aliasing and transparency of the objects and stuff like that. So we don't usually use this a lot. It's mostly used just to while I use it sometimes while rendering, maybe quickly render, maybe using toggling the glow and stuff like that when I'm doing that on Alias, playing with the ambient occlusion and stuff like that. So it's useful in those things. I don't usually work around this tab a lot. Then there's layers. This is one of the most important things. Layers is there in all the softwares. No matter what software you're working on, there's layers. There's going to be layers you're going to work on. And what are layers exactly? So layers are these group of objects. Now we have a surface, right? We have a surface over here, and then we have another object over here. This is like 6 surfaces into one object. Now if I have 2 objects and I want to keep them separate but in a single file, so you won't be making different files, right, for different files of Alias. So if I have a car, if I have a steering wheel, right, it's gonna be a steering wheel might comprise of different small objects, like maybe it might have different buttons, and you don't want to make a different file of Alias for that. So there are different layers which you create, right? So you just go on layer, select make a new layer, keep making a new layer. Yeah. So this is how it works. So there's a you can even create a folder. So there's a folder, then there are layers. You can put a folder, maybe you can customize it, like there are small details on the buttons, and then there's a steering wheel. So if you want a folder of a steering wheel, you make a folder of the steering wheel. You put the steering wheel inside a layer named steering wheel. You can also make layer named details of the steering wheel and stuff like that. So it's more customizable in terms of the layering as well. Then you can select the objects. You can select by picked objects and stuff like that. It's more related to how a layer works in general. So it's not the only option over here. You can also click and hold on the layer itself to select on how the objects in that layer work, right? So if you want to pick objects only in this layer, you're going to click on this and pick object. Since there's nothing assigned right now in that layer, we are not seeing anything. But if I assign it, I'll show it to you right now. I'll just assign it right now. If I have nothing picked, I'll just click and hold over here. I'll pick objects, and you see how it gets highlighted. That's how it works. So this is the layer thing, where you can also toggle the layer bar if you want to make it clean, even though no one does that. Then there are toggle layers, toggle unused layers. You can delete unused layers and stuff like that. So these are some of the layers, layering, and this tab actually helps you to assess the layers in general, right? And this is for a specific object. You want symmetry of that particular layer, you're going to switch it on from here. If you want the symmetry on, you can set it on, and then you can switch it off from here. So it's like that. So this is more detailed version of the same file, and that is a more general kind of a feel to it, because these are like general layers and stuff like that. The main reason I'm spending a lot more time on this is because it's a very important concept to know about, since layers are there in all the softwares. Now this is the canvas. It's like, for me it's not that very important, because I just place the drag and drop the objects and it's there. I adjust the object around how I want it to be, put the measurements, and it sets up automatically. Then there's render. This tab is also not that useful once you complete the object. After that it becomes quite useful. I just use the multi-lister and list all. and I get all these default shaders and stuff like that, which you can later assign if you want to maybe assign a different material, so that you can just take it on to the next software, and it becomes easier for you to distinguish those softwares, right? You cannot use different colors, so maybe you can use it, you can assign it over here, so you can you can make a distinct selection of all those surfaces in the other rendering software. So animation is also one of those things which is not very important. It's also one of those things which you can just take a quick turntable or something like that. Then this is one of the major important things where you might need to use it depending on your window size. So it's if you want to switch on or off palettes, switch on or off shelves, control panel. So this is some of the things which is like controlling the whole window in itself. Then the preference. So as I said when I started the video, I said that my preference is like I prefer that my screen should be black in color, and yours might be gray. So it's set, everything is set in the preference. There are selection options, there are construction options. Construction options are majorly for setting what tolerances you want. So all these technical terms will get a bit more, we'll get into the details a bit more later in the videos. Then there are utilities. So these are plugin managers. You want to add some plugins, you want to reset all the tools or something like that. Then there are helps. So Alias has its own set of tutorials as well. If you don't understand, you can come right here on this channel. You can post your doubts. I'll be glad to fix them. I'll be glad to show them on the channel as well. Then we'll take a look at something else as well now. We'll take a look at some of the bars over here, right? So this is a palette. This is a diagnostic shade. This is a control panel, and this is a shelf. So a palette is nothing but a compilation of tools, right? The tools to create your surfaces or tools to create your objects. It's nothing but you can just create all the object and surfaces from here. It's like you can also pick objects from here, pick nothing, pick object, pick components, pick templates, pick reference, pick edit points, CVs, curve on surfaces and stuff like that. You can even pick locators. You can also pick the visual things. You can pick the stitch surface chains and stuff like that. So it's quite intuitive. It's like pick whatever you want to pick, you can just pick it from there. Then there are different transform. If you want to move an object, you just select this and you can move it around. You can move it on different axes, and you can move it around on different axes and stuff like that. Yeah. Then there are curves. Then you can just curve edits, like if you have a curve, you want to edit the curve, you can edit it through here. If you have an object, you can edit it through here. You can have a surface, you can surface edit it through here. So it's one of those so palette is mostly used, I think, by when you're starting with Alias. But now since I'm quite used to it now, so I have my own shelf. So shelf is more of your own customized thing, like your own preference, which I think is like if I have some set of tools I use most of the time. So maybe if I have a surface, so some people might have a different way. As I said in my first video, there are like hundreds of solutions to one single blend, right? But if I have one method which I use most of the time, I'm going to use the same set of tools in the most of the time, right? So I make my own shelf where I have my most used tools. I just set it up properly. Then there's object construction, which I use most of the time, how I set up the objects and stuff like that. Then there's this diagnostic shading. So diagnostic shading is nothing but viewing your objects in different shaders, right? So you can view it pretty easily, like use this one. So the reason why it's switched on only on this one is because this object has been selected. So that is the reason why it is like switching on this. If I select this object, it's gonna take this one in as well. If I just pick nothing and I click on this, it's gonna put color on all these things. So that's how it works. Then there's this one as well. So this is on your preference as well, whichever workflow or whichever rendering thing, whichever view you like to work the most. The major things here inside the diagnostic shading, this is a very important tab in terms of the evaluation as well. So this is one of the major things which everyone is going to look at once your object is ready, is like your surface evaluation. So you can see if the surface is flat, it's not reflecting the light in a very curvy way, right? It's like a straight panel, so it's reflecting the light straight. But as soon as I take this surface a bit up, I switch on the control points, I bring down the object control points a bit down. You see how the reflection changed? You see how it got a bit curvy? So this is how it works, right? This is how it works, how the reflections change and everything. So this is zebra. We call it zebra. It's a horizontal, vertical, zebra, diagnostic shader, and some fancy words being used here, but it's just zebra. Then this is for some, if you are doing some rendering or something like that, if you are assigning materials, it becomes quite easy for you. You want to see the reflections and the material you assign together, you can use this. There's some clay which you can use. Then there's some wireframe is the one of the most important ones as well. This is the wireframe one, this is the one, and the major ones which I use are all over here. These are the major ones which I use most of the time. So you can see over here, these are some of the ones. In this one, if there's a difference between this one and ISO angle. So in this one, you can see there's a light being reflected in one particular direction, right? And the direction does not change when you move the mouse, but the other thing is not valid when you switch on to the zebra. It moves depending on the axis you are around. If I am between this, in this view space, it's going to show me a different line, but it's the same for this one, right? It's not going to move no matter where you go. So that is the main difference. I like to keep it on sometimes like this, or maybe I want to show it, evaluate it, something like this. I can do it like that as well. So that is how it works. Then control panel. Control panel is mostly for controlling the surfaces. So you can even use a lot of tools are there inside in this tab as well. And we are going to take a look at lots of tools as well. What tools we are going to use and how we are going to use those tools. Like if I want to switch on the CV, so I just click on CV and hull. So CV and hull is like showing me how many points are there. So you see there's a degree written over here, 3 by 3. And you can see how many points there are, right? So inside the surface, there are like 3 by 3 kind of settings, right? So that's how it works. So yeah, that's how it works. And that's the major thing which you need to keep in mind. This control panel is is one of the most important tabs as well, which you need to keep track of, because it actually helps you to correct most of the errors which you have in your surfaces. It opens the points, it opens the edit points, it opens the blend points and stuff like that. You can also set the transparency of different objects. You can set the transparency of the surfaces. You can set the transparency of the canvases, like maybe the images you are importing, right? You can set up all those things inside this tab, and it gets quite intuitive. Once you start using, you'll get through, okay, I need this tab. Now I know, okay, I need to edit a surface, so I need to go into control panel. If I need to make a new surface, I'll go into palette. If I need to make my own set of tools, I'll go into shells. If I need to evaluate those things, I'll go into diagnostic shading. That's how it works in Alias, and that's how we need to, like, it gets that's what I said, it gets quite you'll get to know over time that what thing works for what. So let's take a look at the next topic. So we have also okay, so the major thing we haven't talked about, which is one of the major important things without which you won't be able to use the software at all, is the movement, which I think I should have started the video with that, but I thought that maybe I'll just take you through the whole workspace on how the whole surfacing and everything works, and then we'll talk more about how the movement and what the key presses are, so that you can start working on your own. So if you're following the tutorial, I would like to or maybe following the video, I would just like to say one thing, that in this video we won't be doing anything, right? It's just a small practice exercise, like maybe before playing football, or maybe before playing basketball, you might be like, you exercise a bit, right? Like a warm-up. So what you can do is, there are a set of 3 keys and 3 mouse buttons, right? So it's Control, Shift and Alt, and left mouse button, middle mouse button, and the right mouse button. So these are the main buttons which are being used in Alias to run Alias, and it's being used worldwide. So mostly people have started, you might be using their own set of keys, maybe their own hotkeys, but majorly when someone is starting out with Alias, they use this Control, Shift and Alt set of keys. This is a combination together, and this do a lot of things together. So that's what we are gonna see today, and maybe after that, after the video ends, maybe you can just play around with these keys, right? You can just play around with these 3 keys so that your muscle memory gets stronger. You know what key does what. So next time when you are following a tutorial, it doesn't become very difficult for you to follow through the whole video. It's not like, okay, I don't know which key is where. It becomes quite intuitive. You just get used to it once you start doing it. Your speed increases side by side as well. So as I said, the main keys are Control, Alt and Shift. So if I want to tumble the camera around an object, it's Alt, Shift and just drag. So you see how it moves? It moves around. Alt and Shift are for, and the left click mouse button is for moving around or like tumbling around. Left, Alt, Shift and middle mouse button is for movement. Alt, Shift and right is for zooming in and out. So Alt, Shift and left click is for tumble. Alt, Shift and middle mouse is for panning around. Alt, Shift and right is zooming inside out. Yeah, so that's how it works. So this is the major movement tool which I'm gonna use. I do it pretty quickly now because I've gotten used to it. I can just move around. I can see my surface from different angles by using this. You see how I've gotten used to it. So once you get used to it, you'll be able to do the same. It's not very difficult. Then there's another set of string of key presses, which is like Control, Shift and left click, middle mouse and right click. You can actually, these are known as marking menus. So marking menus is like you can do some pretty quick stuff over here. Like you do not need to go into the palette again and again to set your own curves, maybe create your own curves again and again, which is quite a difficult process, like and time consuming process, to be honest. So it's not like you need to go here again and maybe create your own curve and then maybe edit it, go into the control panel, and all these things are quite time consuming, right? So Alias has given you that liberty to create your own marking menus where you can just Control, Shift and left click, and you can just move around. You can move your mouse around. You can see how each and every thing picks surface. If I pick a surface, it's gonna pick a surface. If I pick nothing, it's gonna pick nothing. So that's how it works. In Alias, there's one interesting thing which I thought, which is quite different from other softwares, is that for other softwares, if you want to deselect something, you just need to click outside and it deselects. But on Alias, it doesn't work like that. If you want to deselect something, it's like pick nothing. And I thought after some time, I thought that this is quite unusual, but there are so many components in Alias. There's locators, then there are so many evaluation tools, that there was a tool that was necessary just to pick nothing. So that's quite interesting and quite interesting thing about this software. And this is the exercise which I would recommend you to work on for the next tutorials. Maybe you'll get used to this movement pretty quickly, I think, because it's very intuitive. So there's only 2 strings of commands, which is Alt, Shift, left click, middle mouse button, right mouse button. Then there's Control, Shift and moving around the marking menus. So marking menus can be customized however you want to. It's like a quick workflow, right? It's faster than shelves, so you can understand how fast it is. Like if I want to make a curve, I'll just come here, I'll make a curve, I'll click and my curve is done. So you do not need to go over here, see the curve and I need to click on EP curve, I need to click over here, it's a long time, I need to change the degrees. So it's a long process, right? But I know, I'll just do it in one single step, and that's take a 2-degree curve, I'll just select done. That's the thing. So that is how Alias works. All in all, it's not very difficult. To start with, people think that it's very difficult because there are a lot of strings of keys attached to one single movement. If I want to move the camera, it's not just moving around the camera, it's also with Alt, Shift and this thing. So it's very it's complicated to learn at first, but once you know this key presses and stuff like that, it gets quite easy. So most of the people who might have used Rhino are like, we don't know how to use it because it's like just left click and we can pan around the camera. But in this, we need Alt, Shift and moving around the camera. So that's how it works. So yeah, anything left to show maybe in this video? Okay. So I think that's it for today's video, and hope you like it. And maybe if you have anything other than this, if you have any other doubts, maybe you are a bit advanced user, you can just maybe have your doubts, you can just mail me at that 3dguy23@gmail.com, and I'll take a look at those and maybe showcase them in another playlist which I have. So yeah, I hope you like the video. Thank you.